I'm Liz Whiteacre, and we're going to talk about how to prepare for academic research writing. This week, we're thinking about how we can apply what we've learned about primary and secondary sources to our research strategies. We'll explore how to organize searches with research questions and how those research questions can help us organize our research and identify appropriate types of sources to answer those questions. And finally, we'll think about how we can conduct personal interviews professionally. Before we get started, I wanted to take a moment to touch base with our annotated bibliography assignment. For this, you will be looking for a minimum of 10 resources. I'm asking you to do 5 different types of searches. So it's not necessarily finding a particular type of source, but we're really focusing on becoming comfortable with different ways to find information and making sure that we're tapping all of the different options out there, because as you move forward in your coursework at the university, you're going to be flexible. Different projects are going to require different types of resources, and you're going to need to think critically about what you need to use when, what's appropriate, and what's going to be most efficient and get you the best kind of information. In this course, we will be looking at how to use KML, Krannert Memorial Library, our UND library on campus, as well as the WorldCat catalog. And WorldCat offers an ability to connect with libraries around the world that are in partnership with KML, so that we're looking for sources that libraries hold. We'll take a look at how to use the KML databases. It's a little bit different. A database is a subscription service, and the database company owns all of the stuff inside the database. So a lot of times it's stuff that you can't necessarily find housed within a library or through Google Scholar or your local public library. We'll also look for multimodal sources. You are creating a multimodal project. So in your final paper, in addition to text, you'll be thinking about how your document is designed, how to engage your readers with things like photographs or charts or graphs. Sometimes people even embed resources that they find, like YouTube videos or podcasts. So I will ask you to go out and find something like that so you can check it out. It might be something you want to include in your paper, but it might also serve as a great example for another way to consume information. A website. You can hit your favorite search engine. You might also like to try out Google Scholar if you've not used that before to find at least one resource. And then conducting an interview or attending an event. And these can be UIndy based or within your community, within your network of people that you know that would be appropriate for answering questions that you have about your project. This is your experience with primary information and an ability to get answers that are customized to you and your needs. Of the other 5 sources, whatever works for you. Different projects might require more websites and interviews and events, especially if you're doing something very specific to getting involved at UIndy. You might need to talk to people, check out different websites to inform yourself. If you're maybe looking at something a little bit further down the road connecting to your career, you may find that you're looking more at database sources or journals or brochures or books, those sorts of things, and talking less to people. If you need to go beyond 10 sources, you can, but it's a good idea to check in with me to make sure that you are not overextending yourself. And certainly as you go, if you have some initial questions answered that aren't as relevant when it comes time to writing your paper, or you're starting to write your paper and you realize, I don't know this part of the process, you can certainly check back in and add some resources as you're going through the drafting process as well. So let's return to what we know about primary sources and secondary sources. Here I put in a picture of a journal. Red is the theme of the day. It's pretty cool, I know. Trying to pull out all the stops for y'all today. But the primary source is coming from the person, right? So I put a journal here to help you think about the primary source in terms of your personal experience. These are firsthand accounts. So if I sat down and wrote a poem, that poem would be a primary source. And if someone else read it and enjoyed it and made a connection with another poem and another poem and another poem and decided to sit down and write an essay talking about the use of metaphor in my poem and a couple other people's poems, that would be a secondary source. When you're in chem and you're doing your lab and you are mixing those chemicals and hoping nothing explodes, right? Your observations and the notes that you're taking to prepare your lab report, that is a primary source. Now, if you are going to your textbook that explains the process and gives examples of what other scientists have done in the past and sends you to different resources and cites other people in the field, that would be a secondary source that you're using to help you conduct your experiment, and the product of that would be a primary source. So the primary is coming of the person creating it, and the secondary is an analysis or a synthesis, an interpretation, an evaluation of primary sources. It's important to understand how those different types of sources work, because secondary sources offer you not only that source, but if it's a credible one, right, all of the different sources that went into writing that particular book or article or creating that documentary. And so if you pay attention while you're conducting your research to works cited pages, to further reading. Let's say you go in and you're watching a TED Talk video, and down at the bottom of YouTube or the TED page, it says you might also be interested in these other videos. Pay attention to those sources. It is a wonderful way of finding other resources that are connected to your topic and might help illustrate things further, might provide other avenues for you to check out, might better explain things that you're interested in. They might also offer other points of view and come at the topic from different perspectives. So rather than sitting and looking through 15 screens on the database search, you may find one or two really great articles and then go in and look up their resources very specifically and find relevant material more quickly. So you definitely want to use your brain and pay attention and hopefully work smarter, not harder. Before you start looking for sources, it is so helpful to have a plan, to know what you're looking for. I selected this graphic because this is something I personally do. I'm really, yeah, I even have one right here. I use a lot of Post-its to help me organize my thoughts when I'm doing a big research project. And here, I appreciated that different questions were written down on different color paper. So we are taking like ideas and grouping them. Now, the next step for me would be, okay, let's put all the blue questions together, all of the pink questions together, the marigold questions together, the green questions together. And then start to prioritize, what would I need to know first? Right. And this can help you as you get started with your annotated bibliography and searching to take 5 or 10 minutes and write out a list of questions. If you type them, that can be helpful because then you can copy and paste and move them into different categories on a Word document or a Google Doc. And that can sometimes make the process go a little bit more quickly. Or you're old school and you think better with the pen and paper, do that. Put all your questions up on the wall. Start to organize those questions, and then it's kind of fun. As you get done answering those questions, you can pull them off the wall or the desk or wherever you're keeping them, and it feel pretty good as you see fewer and fewer Post-its as part of the project. As you're thinking about how to prioritize research questions, it's a great idea to make sure you are starting with the main project goal, right? This is, in essence, coming back to your thesis for the project. How am I going to learn how to blank? What's the big picture? What is it you're trying to accomplish? How am I going to learn how to tutor uh, tutor elementary students? There's some people interested in that. How am I going to learn how to do a mission trip to a particular place that you're interested in? How am I going to learn how to, right, achieve this career goal? Right, I'm going to need to do quite a few things to be able to make that happen in the next 5 to 10 years. How am I going to serve this particular population of people? How am I going to fundraise for this particular thing? So you're starting with that big idea from your proposal, and then you want to break it down into steps. If I'm thinking about how am I going to learn how to help homeless people in my community. That was another topic that came up in people's proposals. So that's a really big one. So I can start to break it down and think about what already exists that I could become a part of. So for example, I might have a question, are there, right, organizations helping the homeless near me? You could even go further and say, are there any organizations at UIndy helping the homeless that I could become a part of? If you're not on campus right now, maybe you're looking at your hometown. Then I might ask, what do those organizations do and how do I volunteer with them, right? Some other questions might be, what exactly are they doing to help? Do they help people physically on the ground? Are they helping people by fundraising and getting money? Are they helping people by collecting materials and disseminating them? What am I interested in doing? How much time do I have? So I'm writing down all of these questions that I don't know yet, but I will need to find out in order to help me by the time I'm ready to write my paper, to be able to say, I am going to help the homeless, right? Where? At UIndy, right? By doing this, right? Following through on this specific plan. So then breaking it down into a bunch of questions, breaking that down into categories or phases. Okay, before I can decide what I want to do, I need to know what's out there. And before I know what's out there, I need to think about what's available to me. Would I prefer to work with UND students who have found themselves homeless? Right? Would I prefer to work with different groups through different types of organizations in my home community? So understanding that would be helpful. And then thinking about, well, what are those specific organizations and what do they do? So creating a prioritized list of questions before you hit the keyboard to start looking up answers to questions will make the process so much easier. And you can also think about then, how big is this project? Whoa, I've only answered the first 2 questions and I've already used 12 sources. Maybe the project that I'm thinking of is larger than this term and I need to narrow it down a little bit. And if you're finding that the case, please come talk to me. Conversely, if you're like, all right, I answered all my research questions and only took 2 sources, right? We can also talk about next steps so that you make sure you're developing an action plan that is going to meet the assignment requirements at the end of the term while we're writing our paper. Research strategies. So we're coming back to those 5 different types of research strategies that I'm requesting for the annotated bibliography. And we're thinking about the library catalog. So a library is an institution that has a bunch of stuff. Oftentimes we first think about books, but they also have other things like journals, magazines, newspapers, DVD, audiobooks, right? Posters. Some libraries have, I saw an article this summer where you could check out animals that have been part of the taxidermy process so that you can study their anatomy. Lots of different types of resources. The one limitation is, do they have it? Now, we're fortunate to have a lot of digital resources that our library, specifically KML, has. So you're able to get books that are online, PDFs of journals. You can download and stream different types of documentaries and films and videos. So you can definitely get a lot of stuff without physically walking into the library, which hopefully we will do soon. And our library has some partnerships with other libraries. So if KML doesn't have it, they may be able to help you get it through another library, through the interlibrary loan system. And our readings are going to talk more about that. And you can, for extra credit, sign up for an interlibrary loan account this week. Databases. Now, databases are different from the library catalog. Databases are a subscription service, as I shared before. So through KML, we have access to the databases that the library subscribes to. You're going to find general ones like Gale or Academic Search Premier that has a bunch of different types of topics, and you're going to find really specific ones, some specific to, say, business or engineering or nursing, where all of the content within that database is going to be about that particular field. When you do your module on using the KML databases, you're going to be able to see a whole bunch of different types of databases and topics that you can dive into. Databases are a little bit different. Sometimes you might find a book, but they're primarily looking at periodicals. And so you have the library catalog with a wide variety of sources that have a lot of different types of depth, breadth, and scope. So you're going to find books that go way into huge detail and cover a lot of ground. And you're also going to find maybe a magazine article that just gives you a little bit of information about the topic to get you started, or maybe gives you a specific experience from someone so that you're able to have an example or a case study. In the databases, we have what we call peer-reviewed journals. We have those in the library as well, but the databases are unique because within that database, that is where you're going to find that information. So it's definitely pay to play. If you don't have access to the library that has the subscription to the database, oftentimes you can't get that information otherwise. So make use of it. Learn how to use this databases, grab all the information you can right now, because you may lose that access as you become a professional in the field if you don't continue to be able to work with a library or your organization or institution or company that you work for, if they don't subscribe to that information. Multimodal projects, they can offer a lot of different types of information. For example, if you have a 2-minute YouTube video, you're going to get different type of information than if you're watching a 2-hour-long documentary, even though the star of both might be the same person with the exact same expertise. You'll see that sometimes where documentaries interview people who then have their own YouTube channels, and so they're talking about their expertise there and in the film. So thinking about what type of question you have can help you make these different choices. Websites as well, they can provide kind of a broad overview, or they can provide very specific information. There are also a lot of different types of points of view in all of these different types of sources. Often the websites are not going to be peer reviewed. A lot of them are going to be self-published. And so as you're looking for information, you want to make sure you use those critical reading skills and be thinking about how trustworthy is this information. And then interview or attending an event is going to help you collect that primary information, and that is personalized to you. So after you've spent a little time looking at other sources and answering questions, and you start figuring out, well, what do I want to do? What's maybe best for me in this project as I'm helping other people and I have these two different choices? How might they influence my path in help me grow as a person? Well, I'm not sure. So going to talk to someone I can talk to in the field to get their opinion on what they think I should do, right? That's really valuable information and can help you figure out exactly what you want to do in order to help the group of people that you've identified. So to figure out what are appropriate types of sources, you want to think about that project goal, right? Look at that list of research question and consider the depth, breadth, and scope you're going to need to answer that question. For example, does UIndy have student organizations that tutor kids? Well, very quickly, we can go to the UIndy website, look at the student organizations page, do a skim and see if anyone talks about tutoring or mentoring, and then find out about those clubs. We don't need to go to the library to look up a book, right? No book is going to be written specifically about those opportunities at UIndy. We might choose to go to the library to look up a book if we want to have some more information about the benefits of tutoring or strategies you could use to be an awesome tutor and really make an impact on those kids. That might be a reason why you would look up a book. Or maybe there are no books for this project. Instead, you want to take a look at library resources that are offering you perhaps an on-the-ground personal perspective through a documentary of watching how a group of people are experiencing tutoring kids and the strategies that they're using and the experiences they're having. Or there might be some articles that you're interested in finding. The level of expertise might be helpful as well. For example, you might know somebody who did some tutoring. Is that person the best person to pick depending on what you need to know, right? So, hey, my friend, it'll be easy to contact that person and yeah, they'll answer a few questions for me and they kind of loosely had this experience or their sibling had this experience versus, well, I'm going to contact somebody I don't know, right? Maybe someone who is at UIndy who organizes tutoring and ask them because they have more knowledge about what's happening at the place that I want to work at. You can also think about different types of points of view, or what we call bias, the different inherent opinions or agendas that people have as they are producing sources of information for people. So even though you might get one person's opinion on what they think you should do, you might want two or three different people's opinions on what they think you should do. For example, you might want a peer's experience and what they think. Oh, it was a great experience, or oh, I don't know, it looks good on paper, but it was not what I was expecting it to be, right? And maybe your academic advisor and maybe a professor, they can all provide different points of view on what they think would benefit you as well as the group of people you're trying to help. And all of that information will be really helpful to you. That's why we have those 5 other sources, your choice, so that you can figure out what works best for the answers that you're trying to find. I wanted to spend a moment to talk about conducting personal interviews for this course. It is important you start now. It can take a while to get the information you need. I'm asking for 1 interview, and sometimes students wait and then they email one person a couple days before the deadline and they don't hear anything back. Don't put yourself in that situation. I would recommend identifying 2 to 3 people who would be great for this project. If you get information from all of them in time, what a wealth of resource. Like that would be amazing. You can use all 3 of those interviews in your project. Make sure that these are people who have expertise, right? That they can confidently respond to your questions. And when you contact them, I recommend using your UIndy email account so they see uindy.edu coming into their mailboxes. Make sure you have a clear subject line, right? I've been getting emails from people with no subject line, and it's always kind of a, oh, I wonder what this is going to be about. So let people know, request for interview, right? By such and such date, so that they know coming into the email. what is expected of them. Make sure you say hi with the person's title and last name, even if it's somebody that you know. It's always nice to start professionally. And if they're like, oh no, call me by my first name, then you can switch to that after the initial conversation starts. An introduction that identifies your purpose and why you're contacting this person is very helpful. A discussion, and this might be 1 or 2 sentences even, that asks the questions and shares why the answers will be beneficial so they kind of understand what you expect from them. An invitation to follow up and give them some options. They could just reply to the email with answers. Awesome, right? But maybe Zoom and you're taking notes and asking those questions, or talking on the phone could be easier for them. So give them some options and share your contact information with them. And they'll know in advance, okay, this is what this person's going to ask me. And that can be helpful too, even if they don't email you a reply, so that they can be thinking about those answers and provide really great ones. Sharing the deadline. When do you need this information back, so they appreciate how much time you have to work with them. Always, always thanking the person for their time in that first message, and then having a nice close and signature is important as well. So let's take a look at an example. Right, so here I decided to go with a tutoring idea, since that's something that comes up often in the English 101 courses that I teach. I did a little bit of research to start. So one of my sources was the UND website, and I looked up service learning because I heard that that might be something that could help me achieve my goal. So I have one source already. I checked it out and I thought about what questions aren't being answered by this website. I noticed that Ms. Folkrod is the director of service learning, and she had her email on the page. So I decided I'm going to contact her with my follow-up questions. So I'm starting my message with, hello, Ms. Folkrod. I'm a new UND student who is interested in volunteering with a community organization to help tutor elementary school children. I'm an elementary ed major. For my English 101 class, I'm doing research on how I can get involved, and I hoped you could answer some questions for me that I couldn't find on your website. I was wondering, does UND have any partnerships with organizations that tutor kids in the area? Do I need to be in a service learning class to be able to participate? What class would I need to sign up for, and when is it offered? Do you know about any other opportunities for someone like me or other people I could talk to about tutoring? My project is due in 2 weeks, so I would love to connect soon in whatever way works best for you. Email, Zoom, or by phone. Please let me know. You can contact me at this email or 317-333-8888. Thanks for your time. I really look forward. I am. Oh my goodness, I have a typo. I'll fix that in the slides I post. So yep, we got to prove for you to be professional to getting involved. Best wishes, Pat Smith. Yeah. Teaching moment here, right? So in this, it's really clear, right? She doesn't have to say, I'm sorry, what do you want from me? Because I'm laying it all out for her in advance. I'm letting her know, why am I contacting her? I'm suggesting that I've already looked at her website and these questions aren't being answered. So she knows that it's not just like, well, go read the website and she can provide me personalized information. I'm letting her know this is for a research project. Up front, these are my questions. I recommend that you ask about 2-3 questions specifically about your project, and always end with, what other advice do you have for me? Or can you recommend any other resources? Or are there other opportunities? That open-ended question allows the person that you're contacting to give you other resources. So it goes back to that secondary resource strategy of using one source to help you find other relevant sources. When is that deadline? You could even be very specific and put it, I need to hear by this date. And then again, being flexible in how they want to respond. And then also, thank you, thank you, thank you. And if the person emails you back and says, I'm sorry, I don't have time for this, or I'm not the right person, contact this person, your reply should be, thank you, I appreciate it. right? Or if they certainly answer all of those questions or they come back, reply, thank you, right? Takes 2 seconds, but that follow-up will make a meaningful impression on the person. And then you have this nice loop. You can always follow up later as well. And oh goodness, you can always follow up later as well and let them know how the project turned out and share that with them. So in conclusion, start now. Be mindful of deadlines, right? Look at the calendar. You have a limited amount of time to collect this information, and it could take at least a week of communicating back and forth, especially if they want to do a Zoom interview and their schedule is tight and they have to fit you in the near future. If you contact someone and you don't hear back from them, you might wait 3 days or 4. A gentle reminder would be a good idea. Not emailing back like, I need this now. Instead, I just wanted to follow up and see if you might be able to help me get answers to these questions. Or is there someone else I should contact? And that would be a key in a follow-up. And if you have questions about this, I'm happy to talk to you in advance of sending a gentle reminder. Have options. Don't rely on one person because that one person might not be able to respond. So make sure you have a couple people in mind and reach out to all of them at once. Again, if you get 3 responses back, that is amazing. And you can use all of that excellent information in your project. You might also think about asking different questions of those people and say thank you. Make sure that you share that gratitude you feel. You may need to circle back to this person in the future. This may be the first step for building a professional relationship with this person and growing your network as you move forward in your academic goals. Finally, looking ahead, this is a busy week. We have, after this lecture, our Sky Pack. And then on Tuesday, we have a special deadline. We are making sure that peer review 2 is submitted, that you've given your blog partners some feedback on their work so that everyone can revise their first blog post by Thursday. 11:55 p.m. Make sure that you have that link, the URL, pasted into the assignment page in ACE so that I know that your work is ready to be reviewed. Next week, you will start researching your altruistic action and get started on your annotated bibliography. So you'll be able to put all of this information that you've learned today into use. In anticipation of that, start thinking about in the back of your mind, what are those research questions that you have so that you can get organized at the start of next week and answer all those questions. That's the goal. If you have questions as you work, as always, don't hesitate to reach out. I cannot wait to see what you learn, what you find, and the plans that you create this term. Take care and keep in touch.